Good morning to those who are gathered here in the sanctuary and to all who are joining online. We begin our service this morning with a musical prelude by John Mayhew. My name is Jason Woodson. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm pleased to be leading worship this morning with Reverend Tim Temerson, music director Scott DeVoe, pianist John May Hood, and the UU Seville Choir. Whoever you are and wherever you have come from, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charlottesville welcomes you. We are delighted you have joined us this morning and are grateful for all who have made this moment of our gathering possible. I invite you to take a moment to greet others. Those online may unmute, and those who are here in the sanctuary or social hall are welcome to greet your neighbors, especially those you may not know. We offer a special welcome to newcomers and invite you to join us after the service in our social hall and use one of our red coffee mugs, which are for newcomers to our congregation. UU Seville members and friends are reminded to offer anyone with a red mug a warm welcome to our congregation. There is also a live stream of the service in the social hall. All are welcome in the sanctuary, but for those needing a roomier space, the social hall can be a good option. Those joining us on Zoom are invited to stay online for conversation following the service. Many thanks to all the people who make Sunday morning services possible. Our greeters, ushers, hospitality, and altar decorating teams, and our wonderful religious education leaders and volunteers. And special thanks to our AV tech, Nash Ford. And now we have greetings from Board President Carol Gardner.
So I'm Carol Gardner, and I'm honored to serve as the president of your Board of Trustees this year. And the board held its annual retreat yesterday, and I wanted to just give you a quick update on what we talked about. Nash is showing the mission statement for the congregation. So if you don't know, a couple of years ago, we put together a mission statement. We worked really hard on it. There were lots of meetings and discussions, and we came up with this wonderful statement of what our mission is. Now, the question becomes, what do we do to make that mission statement come true? And that is our strategic plan. And again, the strategic plan was put into place a couple of years ago. We had lots of conversations, discussions. If you were here, hopefully you participated in all that. We had a congregational meeting where we voted on the plan. And it's a 3-year strategic plan. And last year, the church year that ended in June was the first year of the plan. So a big thing that the board did at our retreat yesterday was to hear about what did we do in the first year of the plan? How did it go? What are we talking about doing for this year, the second year that we're in the plan? And it sounds a little dry and administrative, the plan, the mission statement. And yet what's in the plan, if you look at it, and it's on the website, is all the wonderful things that you hear about here in the Sunday services. It's our religious education program, Pacham, Impact, all the wonderful things that we do to support each other and to support the community. And so I'm asking you, if you are participating in one of those many things that's in the plan already, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. If you're not and you're curious, take a look at the plan, see where you might fit in, what touches you, what inspires you, how could you contribute. Something that's a couple things that are new this year are that we have volunteer coordinators, and I know Reverend Tim introduced them a couple of weeks ago, Kathy Sanders and David Meller. Yes, thank you. I think they're both here, but I won't make them stand. If you have questions about how you can get involved, what would be the best fit, what programs do we have going on, Kathy and David can help you find your spot. And the second thing that we did recently was to reconstitute what's called the Committee on Ministry. And their purview is to support and interpret the ministries of the congregation. And we mean that in the broadest possible way. So not just what the ministers are doing, but what we're all doing to help support each other, to minister to each other, to work in the community. So the Committee on Ministry is Pam McIntyre, Laura Horn, and Barb Allig. And I'm not sure if they're here, but if they are, they could wave. Otherwise, thank you to them. They came yesterday to our board retreat, and they're really helping the board to keep track of where we're at with our strategic plan. And we'll be working over the coming months to help communicate to you. How are we doing? What are we doing? Where are all these wonderful things that we're working on? How can you fit in? And if you have any questions at all, please reach out to a board member. Board of Trustees is on our name tag. You can find us in the social hall after the service. And again, thank you all.
Thank you, Carol. Here are this morning's announcements. Please join us immediately following the service for 2 special events: the rededication of the Peace Pole and the unveiling of the Help Each Other art project. For those who would like to join us, follow the instructions for exiting the sanctuary at the end of the service. The 2 outdoor programs will begin at 12:15. Today, we are joined by artist Chris Bowmaster, whose work you see displayed here in the sanctuary. Chris, would you please stand? Chris will be here after church for you to meet him and share your admiration for his work. Are you new to the UU congregation of Charlottesville or to Unitarian Universalism? Join Reverend Tim and several lay leaders today at 12:30 in the parlor for our monthly newcomer circle. The circle lasts for 30 minutes and no pre-registration is needed. The UU-Cville Mosaic Squad is holding another resistance gathering at 12:30 here in the sanctuary. Please join us even if you have not attended a previous gathering. The UU-Cville Young Adult Group is having an open house today in Lower Hall 3. All 20s and 30s are welcome to join us for food and friendship. There will be an Impact House meeting in Lower Hall 2 at 12:30. Please see Meg Dunham if you have questions. Finally, the Gardens and Grounds Committee requests help from 5 to 6 people today at 1 p.m. spreading wood chips on our grounds. Please see Walter if you are able to pitch in.
So Jason and I would like to begin this morning with a call to worship from a former president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Reverend Bill Schultz. Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit.
Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul.
Come into this place of prophecy and power.
And let its vision change your heart.
Come, let us worship together.
As Lillian and Kelly Sheeran come forward to light our flaming chalice, the symbol of our free faith, please join us in saying our chalice lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And then also doing the hand motions, saying, we light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is a church of open minds. This is a church of helping hands. This is a church of loving hearts. Please rise in body and spirit and join in singing hymn number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
I would now like to invite our children, youth, young at heart to come on down and join us down here on the red carpet. So come on down. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some important things that are happening in our congregation today. Come on down. All right. Yeah, have a seat.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
It's nice to see all of you here on this cloudy but autumnal day.
Nice, nice. So I mentioned a minute ago, Reverend Leah, that there's some important things going on at church today. And the first thing I wanted to mention and ask you is, did you know that today is International Peace Day?
International Peace Day. You know, I saw that on my calendar, but I realized I really don't know that much about it.
Right. So it was started, about 40 or so years ago. And it's an effort, it's a reminder to all of us to remember how important it is to live with peace in our hearts, to work for peace in the world. And today we are reconnecting and rededicating our peace pole, which is right outside. How many of you have seen I'm always pointing the wrong way. It's that way. So how many of you have seen our peace pole before when you've come in through the Edgewood Lane doors? Yeah. It's really, really interesting. It's got 4 different languages on it, and it says, "May peace prevail on earth." And we are going to go outside following the service and invite you all to gather around the peace pole, and we're going to rededicate it and say some peaceful words. And I'm very, very excited about that because I really love peace poles, because every time I walk by one, especially ours, it reminds me how important it is to just embody peace in my life.
Yeah, so our peace pole has been out there for a while. You may have walked by it and not even noticed it some of the times that you've walked by it. But yesterday, we had a member of our congregation actually make it even a little more
Yes.
beautiful.
There it is.
And we didn't know this was going to happen, but Tim and I discovered that Tamara was outside putting some flowers around the base of the peace pole and adding the lovely little brick circle around it. So now it's got an extra little bit of love before the dedication today. So hopefully, now that we're talking about it, you'll notice it even more when you come into our church building, and that it can be a reminder to all of us of that prayer, may peace prevail on earth. But we've got another something special that's happening today.
We do.
And you might have noticed it when you were driving or walking or riding your bicycle to church this morning. But some of us got here around 9:30, and we put out 150 signs in front of our congregation as part of an art installation that says, "Help each other." Now, why do you think that might be a good message to have out in the world right now? Anybody? Why would we want to suggest that people help each other? Yeah, Carson. Because we want to be kind. Yeah, we want to be kind. Anybody else? Why would it be good? Yeah. Because a lot of people are struggling during this time. Yeah. And one thing that we all can do is help each other. We all can help each other. So I saw these, I learned about these signs, I think last January. And so I reached out to the artist, whose name is JD, and he makes these signs and has had them in installations all around the country. And so I said to him, "Can I get some signs from you so that we can put them in front of our congregation?" Because what does the other sign say?
Please take one.
Please take one. Yeah. So the idea is that anybody here who wants to take a sign home and put it somewhere can, and anybody walking in front of our church or driving by our church can stop and take one, and then we'll just pepper everywhere. You like when you take a pepper sprinkler and you sprinkle pepper on your food? We're going to pepper our area with these signs that remind each of us to help each other. So when you all leave church today, take a sign with you. And that way you can remind yourself to help each other, but you can help remind everybody to help each other. And don't you think that'll help make things better? Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. So here is a little video that shows you some of the 150 signs that we have. So it will be interesting to see how long it takes for the signs to make their way to a different place. And I'm going to send these slides or pictures and video to the artist so he can add it to his collection for the installations that have been happening. So, yay.
Yay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Help each other.
Help each other.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So great.
So I think our children are ready to go to their religious education classes. So let's sing them out. And one quick correction, the Impact House meeting is happening in Summit House 1.
Oh.
That's the location. And Lower Hall 2 will be one of the breakout rooms for the 1 Million Rising groups. So,
okay.
But I think parents know where to pick their kids up. So there we go. Okay. So let's sing our kids to RE class.
move this. You guys are getting ready to come up.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
We are an interconnected community that cares for one another. Part of how we embody this care is by making time each week to share the joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts. I will now share what was submitted earlier this week. In honor of all our joys and sorrows, both spoken and unspoken, you are invited to come forward and place a glass stone in a communal bowl of water. Everyone is welcome to participate. Those online are invited to share their joys or sorrows in the chat. Please take a stone or stones from one of the baskets and come down the center or side aisles and make your way to the bowl of water in the front of the chancel. Meg Dunham from the pastoral care team will come forward to help hold the space. Meg will be available for a few minutes after the service in the back corner of the sanctuary if you are in need of support or just want someone to listen. Those online can contact the pastoral care team at pastoral@ucharlottesville.org. Let us begin. One of the ways we show our care for one another is by sharing our financial gifts with the larger community and our congregation. Our social action collection for the month of September is for Pacham, which provides emergency shelter and services in partnership with faith organizations like UUCville and the community to alleviate the challenges facing those who are unhoused. In addition to giving online, if you would like to make a donation to Pacham with check or cash, please use the social action collection envelopes here in the sanctuary. Please make checks out to the UU Congregation of Charlottesville and write Social Action Collection or Pacham in the memo line. We also invite you to support the ministries and mission of UUCville by using Venmo, the text address, or by visiting the church website. You may also place cash and checks in the collection plates as they are passed. Your financial pledges and gifts to UUCville enable our congregation to put love into action. Please join in saying our unison offering words. We accept your gifts with gratitude. May we use them wisely for the highest good. Our reading is by Unitarian minister John Haynes Holmes and was delivered the Sunday after the United States entered the First World War. War is never justifiable at any time or under any circumstances. No man is wise enough, no nation is important enough, no human interest is precious enough to justify the wholesale destruction and murder which constitute the science of war. War is hate, and hate has no place within the human heart. War is death, and death has no place within the realm of life. War is hell, and hell has no more place in the human order than in the divine. The war itself is wrong. Its prosecution will be a crime. There is not a question raised, an issue involved, a cause at stake, which is worth the life of one sailor at sea or one soldier in the trenches. How shall I, a pacifist, serve my country in time of war? When hostilities begin, it is universally assumed that there is but a single service which a loyal citizen can render to the state, that of bearing arms and killing the enemy. Will you understand me if I say this, I cannot and will not do? When the call comes for volunteers, I shall refuse to heed. When there is an enrollment of citizens for military purposes, I shall have to refuse to register. When a system of conscription is adopted, I shall decline to serve. If that means a fine, I will pay a fine. If that means imprisonment, I will serve my term. No order, no law, no loss of reputation or freedom will persuade or force me to kill. Once war is here, the churches will be called upon to enlist. So long as I am your minister, this church will answer no summons. Other pulpits may preach recruiting sermons. Mine will not. Other parish houses may be turned into drill halls and rifle ranges. Ours will not. Other clergy may pray to God for victory in arms. I will not. In this church, if nowhere else in all of America, the enemy will still be included in the family of God's children. So long as I am your minister, this altar will be consecrated to human brotherhood, and before it shall be offered worship to God, who, as the Bible reminds us, made out of one blood all people to dwell together upon the face of the earth.
Thank you, Jason. You embodied John Haynes Holmes very, very well. So good morning again to all of you here in the sanctuary. Special greeting to those of you joining us online. Today is indeed International Peace Day, which was established in 1981 by the United Nations to, and I'm quoting here, provide a globally shared date for all humanity to commit to peace. That is certainly our goal today, and I hope you will join us immediately following the service for the rededication of our peace pole and for the unveiling of the Help Each Other art project. And a very quick update that I just received from Reverend Leah, I'm pleased to say that NBC News 29 is here and will be covering our rededication of the peace pole and the installation of the signs. Before I share a few thoughts with you about peace and John Haynes Holmes and peacemaking, I feel again compelled to say a few words about the events of the past week. This is becoming a broken record, it feels to me like, but every week before Sunday, it feels like the news is so disturbing that I feel like I need to say something about the latest crisis or challenge that as our nation continues to lurch towards authoritarianism. Last week it was political violence, and from this pulpit I shared my hope that our society would somehow turn away from hate and retribution. Well, that didn't work. I'm sorry to say that countless people, some famous, some not, have lost their jobs and their livelihoods because of their beliefs and opinions. And there can be little doubt that we are living in a time in which the powers of the state are being openly used to suppress freedom of speech and dissent. I am dismayed but not surprised at how easily the media, corporate media especially, sacrificed its responsibility to free speech and freedom of the press in order to placate the current administration. And I am very concerned about just how far censorship and the smear tactics that come along with it will go. Let me say how grateful I am to be part of a religious tradition and to be serving a congregation where I can make these comments from the pulpits, where I can speak honestly and openly about the state of the world without fear of retribution or losing my ministry. At its core, Unitarian Universalism affirms freedom freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of belief, and freedom of conscience. And I can promise you that we as a congregation will continue to be a home for the First Amendment, and we will do everything we can to resist this creeping, or maybe I should say creepy, authoritarianism. I think markers like peace polls and special days like International Peace Day are important because they serve as reminders of our most deeply held beliefs and values. Think for a moment about all the religious traditions that lift up peace as a sacred obligation and responsibility. Spiritual leaders from Jesus of Nazareth to the Buddha, from Gandhi to Dr. King, teach and preach and model living in peace. Blessed are the peacemakers is only one of many sacred teachings that affirm the preciousness of human life, the evils of war and violence, and the divine command to love one's neighbor and one's enemy or adversary. I wish I could stand before you this morning and celebrate the progress that has been made toward building a more peaceful world. But sadly, like every previous generation, we find ourselves living in the shadow of war and violence. Whatever hope for lasting peace that emerged after the end of the Cold War has seemingly vanished. The war in Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza, and countless violations of international law and human rights have once again made peace a distant dream. The simple truth is violence is the norm rather than the exception, and countless lives continue to be sacrificed on the altars of greed and profit, power and nationalism, fear and hate. I wish I could also offer you a solution or a strategic plan to address the scourge of war and violence. I don't have such a plan, and I'm not sure that a single solution exists. But I do know that part of the problem has been and still is the inability and especially the unwillingness of so many religions and religious institutions to live up to the words and the values in their sacred texts. Words commanding them to pursue peace and to oppose war and violence. Too often, the very voices and institutions that should be leading the way against the seemingly endless cycle of violence are instead providing moral cover and rationalization for that violence, or are simply hiding behind silence and indifference. Now, I want to make it clear that I am pointing a finger not just at other religions or those other faiths, but I'm also pointing it directly at myself and at Unitarian Universalism. While we have for much of our history proclaimed peace as a core religious value, more often than not, we have found it easier to agree to disagree about the justness of a particular war rather than acting as a single voice on behalf of peace and justice. But there have been important exceptions, and that leads me to a remarkable moment in our history, a moment when one of our most courageous leaders articulated a vision of peace that challenged our tradition's response to war with words that still echo down to this very day. Sunday morning, April the 1st, 1917, the Reverend John Haynes Holmes, minister of the Church of the Messiah in Manhattan, New York City. That church, by the way, today is called the Community Church of New York. Reverend Holmes steps into the pulpit he has preached from for the last 10 years. Within days, the United States will really begin mobilizing to enter the First World War, and war fever has already gripped the nation. Take a look at some of the propaganda there. Now, while I'm not aware of public opinion data from that time, support among the American people for entering the war must have hovered at or near 100%. And those expressing reservations or opposition were branded traitors and unpatriotic. In his sermon that morning, Holmes not only declares his opposition to the First World War, but to all war. War, in his view, is hate, death, and hell. War is always wrong, and the reasons given for its justification are not worth one human life. Holmes also affirms his willingness to go to jail for his convictions and his determination that the church would not be used as a tool for propaganda or violence. And Holmes roots his pacifism in his most deeply held religious values: love and respect for all people, and a refusal to demonize any person or nation as the enemy. Now, I don't think it's an exaggeration to suggest that the sermon John Haynes Holmes preached that Sunday is one of the most, perhaps the most courageous in the history of Unitarian Universalism. Not only did the vast majority of the American people support entering the war, so did most everyone in Holmes's congregation. In fact, many were so angered by his sermon that the next day an emergency meeting of the congregation's board of trustees was called. To their credit, while the board criticized Holmes's sentiments, they didn't agree with him either, but they staunchly defended his right to share those sentiments from the pulpit. That's one of Unitarian Universalism's finest moments. Now, there's so much about Holmes's sermon and the vision of peace it offers that I find inspiring. With hindsight, I think many would agree with him in condemning the senseless waste and destruction of war, and that he especially got it right about the First World War, which of course took millions of lives, and I think we're still not sure what it was about. But I must confess that I still have questions and hesitation about Holmes's views about war in general. Namely, that war itself is always wrong and unjust, and that the term just war is a contradiction. I must say that until quite recently, I could not take Holmes's pacifist leap, and I could not say with certainty that war is never justified. I have always found examples from history when war seemed an appropriate response, and I certainly find justice in Ukraine's response to Russian aggression. And this inability to rule out war has also led me to differentiate my views and that of Unitarian Universalism from those historic peace churches. Peace churches which include the Amish, the Quakers, and how appropriate that you all sang a beautiful Quaker piece today, and the Mennonites, among others. Those folks oppose all wars as a matter of faith and conscience. They believe that one cannot be a Christian, one cannot call oneself a follower of Jesus while taking up arms and killing one's enemy. I so admire the courage and conviction of these peace churches, and especially their unwillingness to compromise their convictions in the face of ramped up patriotism and runaway nationalism. And with our world so drenched in violence and, yes, war, I'm not sure anymore if the peace churches don't have it exactly right. And the first thing that leads me to wonder if use should follow the lead of the peace churches can be found in that sermon by John Haynes Holmes. As he so powerfully reminded us, we Unitarian Universalists affirm the dignity and worth of every person. We believe in the ultimate deep-seated unity of all people, rather than a division of humankind into good and evil or friend and enemy. Every person matters. Every human life is sacred. As John Haynes Holmes reminded us over 100 years ago, those sentiments, those values, that is the theological and spiritual heart of Unitarian Universalism. So why haven't we, UUs, followed the lead of John Haynes Holmes and the Quakers or the Amish? Well, the simple answer, I think, lies in the fact that Unitarian Universalism welcomes diverse beliefs and convictions, including beliefs about the justness of war. So rather than affirming an uncompromising view about the immorality of war, like the peace churches do, Unitarian Universalists have accepted differences of opinion within our faith about war and violence. We have accepted and celebrated those who oppose war, no matter the circumstances, like John Haynes Holmes, and we have accepted those who have taken up arms in the name of freedom and justice. But if Unitarian Universalists are too varied in their views about war to become a full peace church, we can and we must follow the lead of the Quakers and the Amish in doing everything we can to build a world of lasting peace by becoming what I'm going to call today a peacemaking religion. We must do everything in our power to create peace in our own lives, in our communities, in our nation, and in the world. Peacemaking, as I understand it, commits us, among other things, to repudiating all aggressive wars, to condemning all attacks on civilians, and to seeing such attacks prosecuted as war crimes, to working for arms reductions, disarmament, and to spending precious resources on education, healthcare, and the environment, rather than missiles and tanks. Peacemaking also commits us to finding just solutions to international, regional, and national conflicts, to promoting human dignity and human rights both in our nation and across the world, and to building a culture of peace everywhere, including in our own lives and in our own congregations. I know that sounds daunting, but it is the work we are called to do. We cannot simply continue to affirm the dignity and worth of all people and to put love at the center of our congregation of our and our lives while the world continues along filled with hate and violence. The time for action is now. About a week after he delivered his sermon against American entry into the war, John Haynes Holmes noticed a man he did not recognize sitting alone in the back pew of the sanctuary. He went up to the man and introduced himself. At first, the man seemed fearful and reluctant to speak, but after Holmes offered him reassurance, the man told John Haynes Holmes that he was German, that he had immigrated to this country as a young man, and that he loved America with all his heart. But now, everything had changed. He no longer felt welcomed in the country he loved. His family had already lost everything: their home, their livelihood, and their community. And in fact, the previous Sunday, every person of German descent had been expelled from their church. After the man finished telling his story, he pulled out a newspaper clipping from his pocket. This clipping told the story of a Reverend Holmes and his controversial sermon in which he said all Germans were welcome in the Church of the Messiah. And at this point, the man looked up at Holmes and simply asked, "Pastor, may I stay?" Now, that moment when John Haynes Holmes reached out to a human being who had been reviled and rejected because of who he was and where he came from, that was a moment of grace, reconciliation, and peace, offering unconditional welcome and friendship to all, including and especially to those who are ignored or excluded. That is at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. Every Sunday morning, we say in our words of greeting, whoever you are and wherever you have come from, the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Charlottesville welcomes you. The question for our faith tradition and for this congregation is, do we really mean that? For if we do, and if we can put those words into practice, Unitarian Universalism can and will be an instrument of peace, an instrument for understanding, and an instrument for healing in our local communities, in our nation, and in the world. Thank you so much for listening this morning. Amen, and blessed be. And I'd like to invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 159. This is a wonderful hymn for peace. This is my song. Please rise. Jason, would you please extinguish the chalice? Before I deliver the closing words, just a few instructions. So the Peace Pole dedication will begin in about 10 minutes. For those of you who want to attend, I would encourage you to actually exit through the Rugby Road doors, the back doors there, and go around. The Peace Pole, now that I've sort of have my sense of direction, is over there somewhere. And Reverend Leah and I will be leading a brief service of dedication, and then we'll invite folks to head over to the art installation. So that would be my suggestion, would be to go out the Rugby Road doors. And maybe I'd ask the ushers to make sure that those doors are open. So let me just leave you this morning with these very brief but beautiful words. May the love of truth guide you. May the warmth of love hold you. And may the spirit of peace bless you this day and in the days to come. Amen. Blessed be, and of course, go in peace.